Okay, so we're talking about Australian time zones. So, what is the time difference between these two Australian cities? So, we have a lot, Perth and Canberra. So, we know that Perth, well, we should know that Perth is in Western Australia, and Canberra is over here somewhere. So, that's plus 10, and that's also plus 10 of Greenwich, and this is plus 8. So, in Perth to here is a 2-hour difference. Guys, I need you to write that down. So that will be 1A, 2 hours. 1B, between Melbourne and Darwin. So we know Darwin's up at that here, and we know Melbourne's down here somewhere. So that's 10, and that's 9.5. So it's half an hour. Okay, 0.5, half an hour between Melbourne and Darwin. Write that down. Adelaide and Brisbane. Okay, so Brisbane we know is over here. Adelaide is over here. So Adelaide is 9.5, Brisbane is 10. So again, half an hour. Right, Hobart, which is over here in Tassie, and Sydney, which is over here, same time zone. So therefore, same time. So 0. There's the time difference, there's no time difference. Brisbane and Perth. Okay, so we've got Brisbane, and then we've got Perth. You tell me, how many there? You write it down. E, Darwin and Hobart. So Darwin's up here at that. Hobart's over here at that. What's the time difference? Right, 2A. What are the 3 time zones in Australia called? Let's see if you know what they are. What is this one called? This one is called the Australian Western Standard Time, and that's AWST. Right, and then you get the Australian Central Standard Time, which is the brown one here, ACST, and then the one that we live in, the Australian Eastern Standard Time, which is AEST. Right, list the capital cities in each time zone. So if you look at Australian Western Time, we know that this is one whole state, and that is Western Australia, and Perth is your capital city. In Australian standard, we've got lots. So in South Australia, we've got Adelaide. In the Northern Territory, we've got Darwin, and we've got Broken Hill in New South Wales. So Broken Hill is on the border there, and they have their own state, which is called Broken Hill, and it's Broken Hill. And then Australian over here, we've got Brisbane, which is in Queensland. We've got Sydney, which is in New South Wales. We've got Melbourne, which is in Victoria, down here. We got Hobart, which is in Tassie, and then Canberra is in the between here, and that's the Australian Capital Territory. Guys, you need to write all these down on each one. Okay, so just go back if you need to write them down. If it's 10 a.m. in Darwin, so Darwin, we're up here somewhere. What time is it in each of these places? So let's go. Adelaide. So Darwin's up here, 9.5. Adelaide is in the same area. So if it's 10 a.m. in Darwin, what's the time in Adelaide? Exactly, 10 a.m. So write that down. If it is in Canberra, so Canberra's over here. If it's 10 a.m. in Darwin, now we know we have to go ahead half an hour. So if it's 10 a.m. in Darwin, half an hour ahead of that will be 10:30. In Broome, so Broome is over here. So if we're in Darwin, we're at 9.5, and we have to go back 1.5 to get to Broome. So if we go back 1.5 hours, 1 hour is 9 o'clock. Now another half hour takes us to, see if you wrote down what I've written down. Yes, 8:30 a.m. Okay, if it's 11 o'clock in Perth, so here 11 in the evening, what time is it in these places? Alice Springs. So we've got to go ahead 1.5 hours. So if it's 11 o'clock, we go ahead 1 hour, makes it midnight, and half 12:30, and it becomes 12:30 a.m. It's in the morning. What about Broken Hill? So if it's 11 o'clock in Perth, what's the time in Broken Hill? It'll be 1 a.m. because it's 2 hours ahead. Perth and Broken Hill, 2 hours ahead. Cairns. So if it is 11 o'clock in Perth, what is the time in Cairns? There we go. We got to go ahead how many hours? So 11 plus so many hours, count on your fingers, you should get to 1 a.m. You wanted to call your friends in Mildura, so Mildura's over here, at 7 o'clock. So you wanted the phone to ring at their house at 7 o'clock. What time would you call if you were in Sydney? So if you're in Sydney, which is here, what time you would phone them at 7 p.m. because you're in the same time zone. If you were in Coopapedi, right, and you wanted the phone to ring at 7, you're half an hour behind them, so you would make sure that you rang at 6:30. Well done. And Fremantle, so if you're here and you wanted to ring them at, you are how many hours behind? So then you would take 2 of that, and that would be 5 p.m. Well done. Consider the cities of Hobart, the capital of Tasmania, and Perth, the capital of Western Australia. Okay, so you got your 2 here. Time zone is Hobart in? Now remember we spoke about it. It is the Australian Eastern Standard Time. Which time zone is Perth in? And we know that one is the Australian Western Standard Time. Okay. How many time zones different? So we can tell it's 1, 2 time zones. Is Hobart ahead or behind Perth? So here we've got Perth, here we've got Hobart. Which one is ahead? Is Hobart ahead or behind Perth? It is ahead of Perth, okay? Because the sun will reach there first, so it's ahead of Perth. Copy and complete this sentence, leaving out the correct word. So you need to write the sentence down. To find the time in Perth, and you need to choose, do we add or do we subtract the hour, how many hours from the time in Hobart? So to find the time here, what do we do to the time in Hobart? Do we add or subtract the number, and how many? See if you can do that first. Pause me and then see if you're right. We subtract 2 hours from the time in Hobart. It's 4 o'clock in Hobart, so 4 o'clock here. What time is it in Perth? Now, how many hours did you have to go back? Same thing. Okay, guys.